A Kansas farmer is sharing details about a man connected to the disappearance of two missing brothers from Wisconsin. Several law enforcement agencies have searched since July 1st after Nick Dymel, 35, and his 24-year-old brother Justin Dymel missed their flight home after visiting Northwest Missouri on a trip for the livestock business they operate in Wisconsin. Garland Joseph Nelson was charged Friday with tampering with a vehicle. Charging documents indicate Nelson abandoned the brothers' rental truck in a commuter parking lot. Nelson had also been doing business with several other farmers, including David Foster. Foster, who runs a dairy operation near Fort Scott, Kansas, shared his story with KCTV5 in hopes of shedding a light on what it was like to work with Nelson. "I thought we were friends," Foster said. The two cattlemen first met in 2008 when Nelson contacted Foster about a metal shed he had for sale through one of his companies, Cash Cow Enterprises. Nelson offered to tear the building down himself and reassemble it on his own farm. He was asking if he could be a subcontractor, Foster explained. That way he could trade some of the labor for the building. The two men soon began talking on the phone on a regular basis. They entered another agreement with a pair of refrigerated trailers, then partnered on a cattle venture. "Our arrangement was that I was going to purchase the cattle," Foster said. "He was going to feed and raise them, and when the calves got to weaning weight, we were going to sell them and split the profit." Over the winter, things started to go sour between the two partners. Nelson had stopped making payments on the building that he had bought and the trailers he had leased. The cattle deal had also been going poorly. It came time due for them to be weaned and sold, and he was coming up with all these excuses and stories as to why he hadn't sold them, Foster said. Eventually, Foster began recording his phone conversations with Nelson. In one recording, Nelson says that he doesn't have the money to pay Foster. He also mentions the guys from Wisconsin and tells Foster he is on the verge of harming himself or someone else. "I was ready to visit Nelson face to face," Foster told KCTV5, "and tell him we need to count cattle." Instead, Nelson showed up at Foster's dairy with roughly 35 of the cattle of the 131 cattle and dropped them off in one of his pastures. Foster took pictures of the cattle, which appeared malnourished and diseased. All the calves appeared to be underweight and all of them had ringworm. Foster told KCTV5 that he does not know what happened to the remaining cattle he purchased, but that he suspects they died in Nelson's care. Eventually, the two men stopped talking, and Foster began reaching out to Nelson's other business contacts, including the Dymel brothers. He found out the Wisconsin brothers had a separate partnership with Nelson and that the livestock company was also frustrated. But Foster never did visit Nelson's farm. He said he felt duped and cheated by Nelson, who he once thought of as a friend. He also wondered what might have happened if he had made the trip to Nelson's operation. Thanks for watching, guys. Leave me your thoughts and opinions below in the comment section. My theory is that the Dymel brothers, of course, were in a partnership with this Nelson guy, but he was supposed to have probably been raising cattle for them, and when they got there, either they were malnourished, like this Foster guy's cattle, or there were no cattle. Either way, Nelson probably murdered these two gentlemen, unfortunately, because he didn't want to go back to prison.